So the late great John Wayne famously turned down the role of Harry Callahan in Don Siegel's Dirty Harry. That role going rightly, I think, to Clint Eastwood, who made it one of cinema's most iconic characters. Now, John Wayne was still knee-deep in the Wild West as the 60s became the 70s, with films like Rio Lobo, Big Jake and the Cowboys. But cinematic tastes were a-changing, and the Western was losing favour and being replaced with the gritty cop thriller. Not to be left behind completely in the twilight of his career, the Duke dipped his toe into the genre, first with 1974's McHugh, and the following year with this offbeat oddity, 1975's Brannigan, the one where John Wayne comes to London to show us Brits how to dish out some good old US justice. Let's take a look. So, grizzly Chicago cop Jim Brannigan, played by the Duke himself, John Wayne. He's on the trail of a big-time gangster, Ben Larkin, played by John Vernon. Vernon always played a great baddie. We'll talk more about him in a bit. But anyway, Brannigan's superiors chuck him on the next flight to London because Larkin is hiding there, and Britain has agreed to extradite him. So what Brannigan doesn't know yet is that Larkin wants him gone once and for all, and has hired a hitman to assassinate him. And now joining forces, in a fashion, with Scotland Yard official Commander Swan, played by Richard Attenborough, and having the lovely young policewoman Judy Geeson show him around, the situation is ripe for some culture clashes, as Brannigan treats London like the Wild West and horrifying us tightly wound Brits with his chauvinism and no bullshit attitude.
Well, if it was up to me, I'd get some men out thumping on the streets, passing out some e pluribus unum. That's what 90% of police work is today.
The murder rate in your country, I'm sure, gives ample testimony to your superior police methods.
Well, Commander, I didn't come over here to argue police methods.
Now, even though Britain will happily extradite Larkin, things are complicated when the American gangster is kidnapped by some British gangsters, who then demand a ransom for his safe return. So Brannigan was a pretty bad flop for Wayne at the time of its release. Quick note, this was the summer of Jaws making $1 gajillion, to be fair. But it's also not really looked upon fondly, even today. Wayne isn't a cowboy for a start. He's also 67 years old here. It has a dingy London setting, and the fact that it's a Dirty Harry ripoff and certainly a Coogan's Bluff clone. Anyway, those are mostly the things I love about it.
You're gonna give me some information. I can ask questions easy, or I can ask them hard. Which will it be?
This is what I answer questions with.
It's mighty persuasive. I guess the questions can wait, but not for long.
Now, that doesn't mean it's a great movie. It's not one, of course. And if it wasn't for Wayne's monolithic presence, it would probably be just another crime thriller. So it was directed by Douglas Hickox, who also made a favourite of mine, the fabulously bonkers Sitting Target in 1972, as well as the even dafter Theatre of Blood and the even dafter than that Sky Riders in 1976. He has access here to some great locations, obviously the film's famous Tower Bridge stunt, but there's also some great pre-development Dockland locations, Piccadilly Circus, and I love the sequence of the assassin trying to gun down Brannigan from a speeding car at the old Beckton Gasworks, a brilliantly dank-looking industrial facility that was memorably used for the pre-credit sequence of the 1981 James Bond film For Your Eyes Only. Anyway, throughout this strides John Wayne's lawman, Hickox making sure he's continually shot from angles that make him look even more enormous than he actually is. Juxtaposed with his British opposite number, Sir Charles Swan, played by Richard Attenborough, who is exasperated at the fact that Brannigan carries a Colt Diamondback around with him.
You shouldn't be wearing that particular item.
Well, a fellow at the front desk said I had to put it on.
Not the tie. The .38 caliber Colt Diamondback.
Commander, I always wear this.
But he was also not afraid to get stuck in himself, as evidenced in the film's infamous barroom brawl sequence, showing Wayne, despite being about 5,000 miles from Arizona, is never too far away from a saloon punch-up.
What's the idea?
Who the hell started it? Awfully sorry.
Now, one of the highlights of Brannigan for me is seeing Wayne and Attenborough together. Both obviously have very different acting styles, and they both come across as enjoying each other's company, I think. And their characters' good-natured one-upsmanship provides some levity to their kind of gritty story. And yeah, quickly speaking of gritty, shout out to John Vernon as the criminal Wayne is tracking, as this guy carved out a career playing sleazy bad guys. I watched him again recently as a child kidnapper in 1974's The Black Windmill. He got his true comeuppance, of course, in 1988 when a killer clown from outer space used him as a human puppet. Now Wayne here, despite approaching 70, still looks like he can handle himself with a gun.
Knock, knock. I wouldn't.
I love seeing him surrounded by some of London's landmarks after so many years of him patrolling dusty western towns. Now, of course, unfortunately, Wayne would only have a couple of films left in him by this point. Rooster Cogburn and The Shootist, before his death in 1979. Wayne had had a cancerous left lung removed in 64 and in 78 underwent heart valve replacement surgery, and in 79 I think his stomach was removed. Amazingly, as far as his screen persona was concerned, he wouldn't be slowed down. And in Brannigan, he delivers his brand of justice to anyone who gets in his way. Poor Judy Geeson, who wisely isn't the love interest in this, is constantly offended by Wayne's old school sexism. Now, the film's worth it for getting to see Sir Richard Attenborough call John Wayne a big sod. And yeah, Wayne was far too old for his version of Dirty Harry, but his natural charisma makes up for it, and I'm always entertained seeing 70s London. Look out for cameos from future Baldrick Tony Richardson.
Can you swim?
Yeah?
Go get it.
Brian Glover turns up, and an underused Ralph Meeker as Wayne's captain back in the States. Go check it out.